You've made it to Chirohustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 408 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Jodi Dinnerman, and if you want to learn how to make space in your heart for chiropractic, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. We have Jodi Dinnerman coming in for part 2 of the follow-up to her first interview. This is episode 408. It's taken us 4 years to get to this point, which I think is really cool. But before we jump into episode 408 with Dr. Jodi Dinnerman, I'm going to let you guys know the big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? First thing, we protect freedom of speech. And as you know, over the past couple of years, that's become something that's more essential to do. So I'm really proud of what we do with our show. We do also protect the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, go on your favorite search engine and look for BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. You'll learn a whole lot more about chiropractic, I guarantee you. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. That's another thing. If you don't know what that means, go and do a quick search for that. And we also believe that when somebody gets adjusted, it connects them, the spiritual, to them, the physical, which is really cool. And I think that more people need to know that about chiropractic, that there is innate intelligence and universal intelligence, that all things are organized. And when somebody's subluxated, they're just kind of disorganized. So now that we cleared all that up, welcome to the show, Dr. Jodi.
When somebody is subluxated, they're kind of disorganized. I was trying to explain to a practice member this morning that everybody has different signals when they're subluxated, and my signal is I get clumsy and I start losing words. Like I'll be like, what was that word? What am I trying? My brain just doesn't fire appropriately. It's disorganized. And then when I get adjusted, it's rarely about back pain and headaches for me. It's really optimal function. And then I'm like, my skin feels like it fits. Like it's like Cinderella's shoe, right? So the adjustment is a shoe adjuster. The irony is that I never wear shoes, if you know me. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I like it. I learned this today, that stay under non-symptomatic chiropractic care.
Forever.
And that's what you just said.
Yeah. Until my hands fall off, I'll be adjusting. And until my body falls off, I'll be adjusted. It's just part of what I do to be healthy and stay healthy.
Yeah, I think that these things are, we know them, Dr. Jodi, because we talk about them. It's our second nature to discuss this. But people that are listening to you for the first time are going to be like, what did she just say? What does it mean to be under chiropractic care, non-symptomatic?
I think the key to educating is to talk with assumptions. So the assumption is that they already have a family chiropractor, and it sounds something like, hey, Jim, who's your family chiropractor? And they say, what? Why would I have a family chiropractor? And you say, well, you have a family dentist, right? And you have a family primary healthcare provider, right? Well, you need a family chiropractor, right? You know that, right? So you talk through assumption. And then when they come in, the assumption is that they're there to get healthy and be healthy for a lifetime, right? To get healthier and be healthier for a lifetime. So it's all assumption-based conversation, and they can certainly correct you. You know, I can certainly correct the mom when I give her a care plan for the baby that's not born yet. Sure, go ahead and correct me, but I'm going to make the assumption that you get it until you tell me otherwise. That's the goal. That's a good day. Sometimes I'm like, I'm so sorry. You can be here for back pain and headaches. Sometimes I screw up, and that's part of it too. That's why they call it practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of the things that you're sharing with me are important, but I think a lot of people that listen to our show, they need a reintroduction. So maybe we can talk to them about Vitalistic Chiropractic and how you teach that to other practitioners.
Oh, man. So I work with a lot of different practitioners, different kinds of practitioners, PTs, OTs, dentists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and chiropractors. And, I'm a Sherman grad, like LACVS all day long, right? That's kind of where I grew up in chiropractic. And there really wasn't a thing besides that for me for many, many years. And in my practice, these are my tools. Like I hands-on and above, down, inside out. That's just my truth. That's the truth in my world. But there are a lot of people who don't share that truth. And I think that for me, part of putting my big girl pants on is being okay with, you might not get my truth, but maybe we can find truths that we have in common. And then through attraction rather than promotion, again, it's assumption-based conversation. Well, of course, that's what chiropractic is, until they challenge you or they charge at what you're saying to be true. And the truth is the truth is the truth, right? And in my world, the truth is that we adjust man the physical to connect with man the spiritual. That's what we do as chiropractors, because that's what I've learned and that's what I've experienced in my experience on the planet. But there are a lot of chiropractors who would look at me like I had three heads if I said that to them. And that's okay. Sometimes the words don't do it justice. It's, hey, you know what, buddy, just go face down. Mm-hmm. But then I also think, James, that we get to this place where, we talk a really good talk, but then we focus on, well, what are your symptoms today, Mr. Smith? So why are we asking about symptoms if we're telling them that symptoms are signals and signals are how our body can? Do we circle back around with, isn't it cool that your body gives you a headache to tell you that you're dehydrated? Do we make the symptom a celebration? Do we educate with their symptoms? I heard, I think you were there with me. I heard Selena Sigafus talking about the electric wires. And if you can see this, so that's my consultation area. There are a couple of chairs there, and there's a huge electric wire outside of my window. And I use that as an analogy. Where do the wires go? They go to the electric. This is all from Selena Sigafus because she's that brilliant, right? And to say to them, so Mrs. Jones, you're here because your teeth hurt when you wiggle your toe. And I'm so sorry that that's bringing you sadness or frustration. But isn't it cool that you can have that signal? And here's what the signal's all about. You got the brain, you got the spinal cord, you tell the story. But here's the thing, okay? When people come to me their first time here, they're there to tell me their story, not to listen to mine. I need to sit down and shut my mouth and open my heart and my ears, because they need to tell their story. They need to get it out, especially moms. And that's who I focus on. And when we come to an agreement, Russ Rosen talks about the importance of certainty. We come to an agreement. Is it an agreement that when you have space in your heart, let me tell you the chiropractic story. Let me tell you why you feel so incredible and so connected when you get off my table, because there really is a why behind it. But Mrs. Jones, I see that you're in terrible pain right now, and I get that you're not going to hear anything I say. Face down. Right? So there's magic and rhythm to all of it, and I think a lot of that comes with the grace of being in practice for a long time. And being a patient for a long time. I've been a chiropractic patient for 30 years. I get it. I want to go to my chiropractor and tell him all about it.
I think an anchor statement for everything you said and kind of like puts it together is, it's not about the body, how it's feeling. It's about how it's healing. And it's not about what you say that it needs. It's about how it adapts and performs. And don't focus on the problem, focus on the process. And I think
Yeah.
if people focused on the process more rather than, oh, you're going to get me out of this thing, it's more of a benefit to somebody to be a lifetime patient then, rather than saying, hey, I'm going to come into you because I have this thing going on in my neck. Obviously, chiropractic is known for helping that. But if you want to have that type of care provided today to the end of your life, then you don't ever have to worry about the neck pain. You just worry about and stay into the process of chiropractic.
But I also, anything after but is, you know what, but I also feel like for me, it's really important to acknowledge what they're saying about the neck pain. They need to hear that I get what they're saying. There's nothing, if my hand is falling off and I'm bleeding to death and I go to the emergency room and the doctor starts talking to me about how smart my body is, I'm going to be like, that's really cool. But do you see that my hand is falling off and I'm bleeding to death? So in their world, their neck pain is that significant. It has to be, for me, God, that really sucks. And I hear that it's interrupting your golf game, and I get how important golf is to you in your world right now. And isn't it cool that your body has the ability to communicate with you? Because guess when we don't have symptoms? When we're dead. And we're not dead. We're here. We're living. You're going to have symptoms until the day you die. So you might as well learn from them.
So do you know what we did just now?
Hmm.
We paralleled the chiropractic story for the practitioner to the chiropractic story for the practice member. Because the practitioner wants to have that known eventually, what we were talking about with innate intelligence and that the power that made the body heals the body. But that parallels with the storyline of the person just wanting relief.
Yeah.
And they do parallel with each other, but you can't graduate somebody to a 300 course until they go through the 100 courses. So
and they can't even be in the course until they can sit their ass down in the chair. Like some people can't, they're not ready to learn. They're not ready to soak it in. They'll see it, right? Do as I see what I do instead of listen to what I say. You know, when I became a mom and my kids started turning 1, 2, 3, and they started like flipping out if they didn't get their way, the best parenting advice I was ever given is when your kid's in the middle of a temper tantrum, just sit on their floor in their space and breathe. Be an example of what you want for them. You want that peace for them in that moment, then be an example of the peace. Don't tell them to calm down, be calm. Right? The same is true in my office. Don't tell them that their symptoms don't matter. Walk the walk and breathe through it with them and listen to them and be here's the other thing, Jim. Okay, James. Here's the other thing. We have to be an example. I spent many years in practice vaping and smoking and really heavy. I did. And I was not in integrity. I was addicted. And, you know, I've been sober for 30 years this summer. I wear that on my sleeve. I'm very proud of it. But I was living a life where I was addicted. And I still dance with addiction of sugar, right? But I was heavy. I was stuck. I was addicted, right? And I wasn't, of course, I was attracting the people who were ready for what I had to offer and what I was ready for in serving them. But I go to these chiropractic conventions and I see the food that's being served and I see the discomfort of the people in their bodies. And I think we have to do better, man, because they're watching everything we do. If we tell them it's time to get healthy and stay healthy for a lifetime, best that we're being healthy and staying healthy for a lifetime. And no judgment, because I'm the most screwed up person on the planet, but that has to be double clicked on. And, you know, I'm going to be 50 in a year, right? And if you're watching this and you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, you're probably like, oh, you're just a spring chicken. But I'm starting to feel it, man. I'm starting to see the gray hairs, the wrinkles, my bounce back time is different, you know? So everything I have right now is about making up for that time that if I'm telling a new mom, your core needs to be strong so that the adjustments that I'm serving you are supported, my core has to be strong. I don't know where that tangent came from, but I guess it needed to happen.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Well, I love the fact that you focus on moms and little ones, because I think that that's a huge component to the cycle of life. And when people realize that what's good for the mom is good for the baby, there has to be that conversation eventually. Like you said, you already assume that the care plan is going to be developed for this new child. You have to assume that when you're talking to this mom about deliveries being easier because of principled chiropractic care, that she gets it and that she would want that innately for this new baby that comes out. And I think that I was talking on my interview earlier is that the best people to get adjusted are babies, because it's not them saying, hey, I feel better, but they just chill out and their body just responds to it. And it's more of it's less of saying, hey, what can we tell to this insurance company that you're improving on so they'll pay your bill for you. It's more of, oh wow, the baby just slept all through the night and made the family's life better. That's pretty
here's
cool.
the thing, I was if you're pregnant, don't listen to this, because I just don't even want this going in your brain. If I was under the assumption that when I have babies, I'm getting adjusted by the greatest chiropractors on the planet, that I'm going to have these easeful, blissed out, orgasmic births. And you know what? My births were the antithesis of that. I had nightmare births. I got adjusted by Jeannie Ohm. Godspeed, Jeannie. I love you. The day before Quinn was born, and he almost died. And what would have happened if I didn't get adjusted? It would. I mean, maybe he would. Maybe, God forbid, maybe he would. And what I'm saying is, my attachment, Jeannie adjusted me, and my life force was flowing 150%. And what needed to happen next for Quinn to come into the world the way he needed to come into the world. But I made the assumption that if I'm getting adjusted by Jeannie Ohm, I'm going to have this blissful orgasmic birth. Wasn't my story. Wasn't in the cards for me or for Quinn or for Kai, for either of my boys. But often, right, when you don't have that nerve interference, like imagine if I went through these, my boys were 11 and 12 pounds. They were huge. Okay. Imagine going through childbirth with babies that big and not getting adjusted. Like what? It's like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And the only thing I can understand is that people have these, I didn't have back pain. I wasn't going to Jeannie because I had back pain. I was going to Jeannie because I wanted to be plugged in. Like I wanted to be as present as possible for that huge baby that was about to pass through a canal that was like this big, right? Watch me stretch. And I don't know. I had a lot of rude awakenings with my birth, and it wasn't all daisies and butterflies and fairies and rainbows. It was hell. And it was very real and very raw. And so many of my friends and colleagues in chiropractic who have had babies, who focus on babies and bellies, we've had these crazy birth stories, adjusted by the best of the best of the best. So I always tell my moms, because I see a lot of pregnant women, you guys, I just have a thing for them. I just know how, I have a wheelhouse, and my wheelhouse is serving my perfect. Am I talking too much, Jim?
No.
My wheelhouse is serving my perfect practice member. In my world, in the Staffless practice world, we talk about perfect practice member. I hate the word avatar. it just hurts. It's like nails on a blackboard, right? We talk perfect practice member. We talk, who did I go to school envisioning serving? Okay. Yes, I took a sacred oath, anyone and everyone, no matter what. But there's a group of people that I'm really good at, that I focus my extra education on, that I read books for. They're my beeline person. And for me, and here comes my perfect practice member statement, it's a 30-something mom with the time, energy, and resources to give more and do more for her family. Everything I do is for that person. I call her Sally. She even has a name. I have policies for her. I market to her. I speak to her. I give color to her. I give images to her. And I set this whole place up for her and her babies to come like a whirling dervish hurricane through my office, and all of it's going to be okay, Sally. Thank you very much. Right? So, part of it is telling Sally, birth is the hardest workout you're ever going to have in your life. You're 3 months pregnant. Start doing squats now. Start lifting weights. Be in the best shape of your life when you have a baby. You know what, Jim? If someone had said that to me in the beginning of my pregnancies, I wouldn't have gained the 70 pounds, and I probably wouldn't have ended up having C-sections. And I got adjusted the whole way through, and thank God for that. What would have happened if I didn't? Anyway.
Yeah, I believe what you said is really powerful. And I do teach people how to create an avatar. So I think that I'm going to switch that up to the perfect practice member. Or, we teach podcast training. So everybody's going to have their own visual of who their perfect person is that they want to produce content for. So I think that that's something else that I could talk to you about, is your Staffless Practice Academy, because the moms, what you said, the babies and bellies is like a different linear model than what you do for the people that need your services from the Staffless practice model. So we talked about what the patient comes in for and what the chiropractor wants to deliver for the first part of the interview. You talked about your ideal practice person on the second part. And now we can talk about who the perfect person is for your Staffless practice, the perfect practitioner member of your courses that you produce. I think that's where we should head for the next 10 minutes, is who have you developed the Staffless practice system for?
Right. So I love that. And my rule of thumb is our perfect practice member is usually us 3 to 5 years ago, or the opposite of us. And the reason why we're so good with that person is because we figured out the solutions to serving them, because we figured out our own solutions, because we're brilliant. Right? So 3 to 5 years ago, I was spending 80% of my time in the office managing people, and I hated it. And I was unhealthy and toxic, and I was being coached by the best of the best. I was going to all the seminars. I'm really good at adjusting. That part is easy for me, right? But 3 to 5 years ago, I was spending 80% of my time making sure that the checklists were checked off. And I hated it, because I fall in love with people, and I didn't want to have to deal with emotional boundaries while I was trying to serve a God-given adjustment, right? So when the poop finally hit the fan, if poop hits the fan, not the wall yet, when the poop hit the fan, I said, okay, how am I going to create a system for my practice to never have to do this again, to never have to focus on training, hiring, firing, training, hiring, firing. When I come here, everything else in my world is about being a mom. When I come here, all I have to do is be a chiropractor, and I love it. It's so much fun. It's the easy part. I don't want to have to come here and manage a team and manage energy signatures. So I figured out, it was the birth of the Staffless Practice Success System. I figured out how to build my practice, how to serve my people, and how to enjoy the experience with automation and joy front and center with everything I did. And then what happened is the world changed overnight. Boom. everybody lost their staff. And all of my friends were calling me saying, Jodi, what's that thing you do with the phone? Jodi, what do you do with money when somebody's standing in front of you? Jodi, what do you do with, how do you know if a new person's ready for a year-long care plan? How do you do all of this without staff? And I was like, you know, I had always been waiting for my purpose in chiropractic. I served on Sue Brown's staff team for years as like the coach, you know, the business part of the stuff. Sue is and was my mentor. She made chiropractic make sense to me. And I knew there was something next coming for me with my place within our craft. And we created a school, and then I started writing books, and it turned into this huge thing, which is now known as the Staffless Practice Academy. So, and it all kind of keeps building and growing. And we have an online school, and I teach about, at this point, 70% of it, and it's really good. And then the other 30% is taught by rock stars like yourself, who are really good at stuff that I just suck at. Like, you know, if having a podcast is part of having a successful practice, I'm going to bring the Jim Chester of podcasts in to teach on how to do that, because that's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is having a wellness-based practice with practice members who stay for life. They come into my practice, and I'm on auto dial. Well, there's no auto dial anymore. I'm in their favorites.
I love this.
I earned it.
I love this so much. And I guess at this point, I should have asked you earlier, but we were talking about like vitalism and healthy pregnancies and stuff of that nature, which is important too. But how can people join, and where do they join if they want to become a staffless practice person?
Right. So the best thing you can do is go to my free training, and it's stafflesspracticetraining.com. And it gives you an hour-long training of what to think about when you start automating your systems. Just start there. Start with a free education, because education is power. Knowledge is power. And I go over in that training where people tend to go wrong when they start the process. And like, what do you do with the phone? How do you use the relationships you have in the community to grow your practice, like grassroots? And then at the end, I give my best commercial and all of our current bonuses for Staffless Practice Academy. So that's the best place to start. The other thing I'm going to say is, if you mention Jim Chester, if you mention Jim's podcast, somehow throw Jim's content, Jim's name in there, I'm going to give you a free copy of my Dinner for Health program, which is like, how do you fill a room filled with your perfect practice members and give them the ultimate fine dining experience and just blow your practice up. All of it's coming at you for free if you mention Jim's name.
I love that. I think that it's really cool. And, you know, the world needs systems, especially the chiropractic profession. They need opportunities to figure out how to do things that are fun, easy, and lucrative.
Right.
And I think that so many times people look at marketing as something that is an extra thing that they have to learn, like trigonometry or something.
Look, I just did this live. You guys see this? So I just wrote a whole book based on this piece of paper. And the book is called the Joyfield Practice Plan. So the idea is, you take a blank sheet of paper, you fold it in you have 4 quadrants, and you write inside habits, inside celebrations, outside celebrations. Your celebrations are the events that you do for your people in your office and the people in the community. Your habits are the things you do over and over, the activities to push your practice forward. As long as you have a healthy balance of these 4. So healthy balance is going to be different for somebody who's been around for 30 years compared to somebody who's been around for 30 days, right? If you don't already have a community in your practice, you're going to focus on the outside stuff. You're going to get out there, you're going to pound pavement. And you know what? Quite frankly, what I have found is that there are chiropractors graduating school and they're just exhausted. They don't have the oomph, right? I ate, slept, and breathed chiropractic. I still do. Everywhere I go, I ask people, who's your family chiropractor? It's not an option. I can't be lazy about subluxation, you guys. Like, people are sick and they're subluxated and they're disconnected. So who am I to not, you know, if Jeff Bueno didn't come into my line at the health food store and talk to me about chiropractic, where would I be right now? Probably rocking in a closet somewhere, right? But he did. He came into my line. He risked appearing the fool. He asked me who my family chiropractor was. And that day I got my first adjustment. I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. But I came back the next day, and then I started working for him, and then I got the chiropractic story, and here I am today. So who are you to not ask that question? It's just a question. Who's your family chiropractor? Oh, you don't have one? Well, guess what? Today's your lucky day. Here are 4 of my business cards.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you giving me 4? Because you know a lot of people, and I'm a good person to know.
I love how accessible you make the conversation with chiropractic, and you are heart and soul and passion. And I believe that everybody should find a passion project and then become professional with it. And that's what you've done for so many, is you've created a passion project and you've taught them how to become professional with that. And every chiropractor does what they do because they're passionate about it, but they don't know how to find the professionalism in it. And a lot of it is through connection. And
I don't know if I'm going to interrupt you again. I don't think I agree with you. I think there are a lot of chiropractors who don't like being chiropractors, and they should go do what they want to do. I think the chiropractors, it should eat at you. You should wake up at 3 a.m. with new ideas for your practice. There should be a bug so far up your butt that you can't help it. Get to the computer and Google your idea. Like, that's how hungry and excited we need to be right now because of what's happening and how much people need what we have. I don't care if you're a used car salesman or saleswoman, a nanny, a chiropractor, a dentist. If you wake up in the morning and you have new creative thought, then you're connected. If you're waking up in the morning and you think, oh shit, I have to do it again, you guys have got to change the channel. You got to change the channel. You got to wake up in the morning. Barbara Eaton taught me this. She taught me whatever the first thought is when you wake up, it tells you everything about where you're at. The first thought, you guys, what's your first thought? My first thought is, oh my God, that's such a good idea. I got to write it down. So I have pens everywhere. Oh, it's so tiring being me, Jim. Okay, I'm done. What are you writing?
I am.
What are you writing?
Well, I wrote down this. Who is your perfect practice member? Create systems for who you were 3 to 5 years ago. Don't manage energy signatures. Be a chiropractor.
You know what? I have a perfect practice member workshop that's free. And do you want me to drop a link somewhere?
You can put it in the comments, but you are
Keep going.
queen. You are the queen of interrupting me.
I'm a Jewish mom, dude. Come on.
Learn how to make space and your heart for chiropractic. That's going to be the tagline for this episode. Don't tell people to calm down. Be calm with them.
Yeah.
And then I love that you say focus on babies and bellies. And I would tell everybody to go to stafflesspracticetraining.com. That's stafflesspracticetraining.com and go through that and learn and connect and see how Dr. Jodi can help you. And the first thought in the morning tells you everything where you're at. So I love it.
That's a really good journal entry for the day.
Well, I take notes on everybody so I can have the perfect intro for you when we produce your episode. And,
I thought I was unique.
Well, you are unique that you interrupt me every time I say something.
And I said that it's because I'm a Jewish mom, but don't think that personally if you're a Jewish mom. Like, that's just my experience of being a Jewish mom. That's what my Jewish mom did to me. And she's a Jewish mom, let me tell you right now.
So I'm going to take that link and take it out of our private chat, and I'm going to put it into the live chat here.
That's perfect practice member, like a whole workshop on it. And that's
I'm going to put it right here, and everybody has access to it now. It's a hot link in the chat thread. It's posted by Chirohustle, not James Chester. So with that being said, we're over our 30 minutes. I know you got perfect practice members coming in to get checked and adjusted if they have subluxation. So love and appreciate you, Dr. Jodi. You are the bee's knees in my book, and I'll make some notes of that too. And thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, they do.
Okay,
Thank you so much for being episode 408. You're always a blast to be around, and thanks for all of your energy that you bring to the world. And this will be live on my page, so if you want to share it, go ahead. And just but people don't know this. I'm just going to tell people, if you made it this far, we pre-record 3 months of content, so we never go without episodes. So if you ever create a podcast, think about that. Don't ever think about your first 10. Think about your first 100. And don't think about the podcast that's coming out tomorrow. Think about having 3 months of pre-recorded content in advance, so you're not under stress to create cool stuff. So Dr. Jodi, I'm going to let you go, but thank you for being my guest today on episode 408.
That's a 3. 4 and 8 is 12, and 1 plus 2 is 3, and that's my number.
Well, I'm glad that we found synergy at the end, and I'll close out by telling you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.